Welcome back everyone, and today we're going to be taking a look at what is, in my opinion, probably the best shotgun in Warzone. Sure, we have Dragon's Breath and it has some great range and two-shot potential, but you put yourself at risk using something that can end up shooting somewhat slow like the Model 680. Even though this gun doesn't have Dragon's Breath, it has a few tricks up its sleeve to make it a top contender for the king of Warzone shotguns. I'm talking, of course, about the infamous Origin 12 Spam Shotgun. We're going to dive into the damage and range it has, go over some basic handling stats, stopping power, check out Slugs as well as my favorite class setup to use in Warzone, and then I'll be ranking the shotgun overall and how it fares when using it. Before we get started, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Call of Duty content, weapon guides, or shotguns in general, because there will be many more videos to come, and you can bet we're going to be covering loads of good stuff for COD 2020, so you really don't want to miss out on this stuff. First off, let's take a look at the damage and range profile. And as a note, these damage values are ballpark figures that have been made using my Warzone health guide since we can't actually see the numbers in Warzone. They may not be on the nose precise, but they are very, very close and should be perfect for our purposes. The Origin 12 in its max damage range can deal up to 200 damage. This is on par with the Buckshot Model 680 and is capable of taking all 3 armor plates plus half of your base health. This is assuming you're hitting every single pellet, which happens to be 8 of them. If you miss a few here and there, the damage will then be skewed a little bit. In its minimum damage range, the Origin 12 will be doing at most 50 points of damage if, and that's a big fat if, all of your pellets hit, which is probably not going to happen. So even though it's around 50, realistically, it's going to be doing much less damage in practical scenarios. Just something to keep in mind since this gun does have a lot of spread and recoil as well. This max damage range extends out to about 4.4 meters. Oddly enough, it seems like it does have a slightly better max damage range than the Model 680, but only by a little bit. Unlike the Model 680 though, after this high damage range, it drops down a good bit and your damage is going to be only around 99 health. And I mean, it is just under 2 whole armor plates and so close to being a solid 100 damage. That goes out to about 7.9 meters. And then the next damage range extending out to about 13.6 meters, you'll be doing around 70-ish points of damage. Past 13.6 meters, you'll end up doing around 50 damage at most. Again, these values aren't going to be on the nose pinpoint accurate, but they are ballpark estimations and are assuming that all of your pellets will hit. Because of the nature of shotguns and the random spread, and the fact that enemies are sometimes moving quickly and jumping around like maniacs, you will likely miss some pellets, but the potential is there. So it's going to take anywhere from 2 shots up to maybe 6 or 7 shots depending on the range and how many pellets hit. If we take a look at some of the range affecting attachments, we'll see just how far we can get the max damage range to extend out to. As you can see, the Impaler is, as expected, going to be the best one to use in terms of barrels for range. It gives you a nice 16% increase in that max damage range, making it do 200 max damage up to about 5.1 meters. Two things to notice here is that the choke and the suppressor both affect the Origin in the same amount in terms of those up-close ranges, but the suppressor does not affect the pellet spread for the Origin. If you want to build an optimal range setup, I recommend the choke with the Impaler barrel because the range is nice, but you also get a huge buff to your pellet spread. Taking a look at this example, the choke on its own helps, but if you combine the Impaler with the choke, the spread is actually kind of insane for a spammy shotgun. So even though it's a shotgun designed primarily for up-close hipfire potential, I recommend aiming down sights for those further range shots so you can land more of your pellets. But I recommend firing and then aiming down sights as you're firing because as you'll see later, this setup can really hurt your aim down sights time. But without a doubt, the Impaler and choke have given me the most consistent use out of the Origin in Warzone at the cost of mobility. And I really can't stress how nice that tight pellet spread is and can be with them equipped. Now let's take a look at the spreads of the other barrels. The precision barrel doesn't really help spread that much, or at least as much as it should in my opinion. The wide shot, of course, hurts that spread a lot, so it makes it difficult to use at longer ranges. And then of course the Impaler gets a nice aim down sights pellet tightness out of all of the barrels. Moving on to what makes this gun really shine is that rate of fire. The Origin can fire at roughly 250 rounds per minute. This is the fastest in the shotgun class, and it's incredibly nice for being up close and personal. If you miss a shot, Who cares? Just spam another 1,000 shots. It's not only incredibly strong, but incredibly fun, and this rate of fire can give us a general indicator of the Origin's time to kill in Warzone against someone with full armor, and you're looking at roughly 240 milliseconds in that 2-shot max damage range. If you take any more than that, your time to kill will go way up and it's going to start looking pretty rough, with 3 shots already taking 480 milliseconds, so your goal with this gun is to get as close as possible and spam as much lead downstream as you can in as little time as you can. Looking at some of the handling stats, starting with the aim down sights times, I believe that this gun actually received a slight nerf to its aim down sights times. I'm not sure what update this may have happened in, but the aim down sights time I keep testing and getting now is around 19 frames or 317 milliseconds, which I believe is about 1 frame slower than what I found before. If we take a look at our aim down sights time master sheet for all important attachments, you can see the no stock attachment helps, but not as much as it does for other weapons, and it actually does the same aim down sights time reduction as the dart stock, but with no stock you do get the added bonus of a faster movement speed, which you're really going to need to use if you plan on using the impaler barrel and the 25 round drum mag. The stippled grip had little to no effect on aim down sights time, with basically what seemed like less than 1 frame, and the impaler barrel along with the 25 round drum mag get the nastiest penalties to aim down sights time with about a 4 frame penalty, not to mention the bad movement speed penalties that you get with these attachments. If you run the 25 round drum mag with the impaler, you're going to be going super slow, so again, you really need that no stock attachment to help counter this. Overall though, despite the painful aim down sights time penalties, the impaler barrel is still probably one of, if not the best attachment to use on the Origin in my opinion. Moving on to our sprint out times, we have a few different ways to kit it out, including the 1mW laser, the 5mW laser, and the stippled grip. Our base sprint out time for the Origin 12 is going to be about 283 milliseconds or 17 frames. The 1mW will bring this down to 250 milliseconds, the stippled grip on its own will take it to 233 milliseconds, and the 5mW will take it down to 167 milliseconds, giving us the best boost to it. This makes it on par with the Model 680 sprint out time with the green laser on. However, if we add the stippled grip tape along with the lasers, you'll see the red laser and grip get a good boost while not having an obnoxious green laser, but also the 5mW laser plus the stippled grip takes it down to 133 milliseconds, which is pretty damn nice. For Warzone, I don't think both attachments are needed at the same time though. They help, but the 5mW laser on its own should be just enough, and then you can spend another attachment point for something you may need instead, like the choke or a magazine attachment. Speaking of the magazine attachments, we of course have a few to choose from, and if you want my honest recommendation, I would say you guys need to try out the 25 round drum mag. If you've seen my content before, you probably saw that coming, but in Warzone, having 25 rounds seriously helps take on multiple enemies. In one-on-one engagements, I can see why it would be a little overkill potentially, but in Warzone or even Plunder, usually you encounter groups of people, or at least pairs, and that is where this gun becomes an absolute beast. You can take out multiple enemies pretty easily up close with 25 rounds and still have some ammo to spare, and the sheer amount of lead you are sending towards people can easily overwhelm targets in that 5 to 10 meter range. You do get a nasty movement speed penalty along with the bad aim down sights time penalty as well, but with this gun you don't really have to aim down sights, and yes, it helps, especially at longer ranges, but you can always aim as you fire, and up close there really is no need to aim down sights. The nice benefit from that 25 round drum mag is that it takes away a lot of the anxiety that comes from feeling like you have to reload so often. Since this gun can take about 4 shots to kill sometimes, that would mean with any other magazine you'd need to reload pretty much after every engagement. But with this one, just spray and pray. It's fantastic and it works wonders, and it's so underutilized in my lobbies that I think it's kind of crazy. It's just so much fun and you really need to check it out. And now it's time for the awful slug rounds. So let's get into this. Let's just get it over with. So slug rounds in Warzone for each shotgun basically all function the same damage and ranges it seems like. So the king of slugs should be the Origin 12 because of that fire rate you'd think. And while I guess it is kind of usable, there are still so many reasons why you should just not use slugs on the Origin 12 in Warzone. First off, the damage. You're going to need 4 headshots up close and 5 torso shots. That's its max damage values. That's insane. That's it. You do get more range technically with a slug, but if you still need that many shots when you could just 2-tap someone up close, it's just not worth the trade-off. Let's say you can make it work though. 4 shots and someone's dead. Hooray! But guess what? You only have 8 slugs in your magazine, so you have to reload after literally every engagement. This is a huge no-no in Warzone. 8 rounds is just not enough. And God forbid you run into more than one player, which, as we've established, happens pretty often. Also, the iron sights are kind of bad, so you'd probably want a red dot sight, so say goodbye to another attachment point for the gun. As you can probably already tell, they are just still weak to perform well. They're just awful and they're so weak. And why bother using slugs if you have a FAL or even just a semi-auto M4? They're without a doubt the worst attachment you could possibly run in this game, at least in Warzone. Now in multiplayer, they're pretty neat, but for the love of God, avoid them in Warzone. God, I hate slugs so much. Okay, now that that's out of the way, how good is stopping power in the Origin 12? I saw someone mentioned last video I didn't really go over that for the Model 680 at all, so I briefly wanted to mention and see if it was worth looking into, and short answer is yes, stopping power in the Origin 12 will enable you to actually one-hit down players with full armor, and it's amazing. This can actually extend to about 4 meters as well. You can even 2-tap full armored players with about maybe 10 meters away, which is super fun and super useful as well. If you run the 25 round drum mag, it actually doesn't take all 25 rounds and make them stopping power rounds, but I believe it was maybe the first 10 or so. Stopping power on the Origin 12 is a must in game modes like Plunder, since you have it right from the get-go. For Warzone, it's still obviously amazing, but you have to find it on the map, which can be difficult since it's all random loot from loot boxes. Overall though, stopping power is amazing on this gun, and you definitely should not sleep on it if you have the option of using it. Now that we've got the basics out of the way, let me show you my favorite class setup for the gun. For the gun itself, I use the 25 round drum mag, the impaler barrel, the choke, no stock, and the 5mm laser. Having a 25 round mag and the impaler barrel is painfully slow, so having no stock really helps alleviate the mobility penalties there, and using the 5mm laser is a nice balance I found, so that if someone gets up in your face with an SMG, you can react quick enough to blow them away because the base sprint out time is a little on the slower side. For my ranking of this shotgun in Warzone, I'm gonna have to give it an A ranking along with a badass seal of approval from me. Once you start decking this gun with attachments, it can do major damage up close, and that's what shotguns are all about. Even though it isn't an SMG and you can't shoot very far, if you're treating this like a shotgun should be treated, you can do some major work indoors and close quarters, and you will probably be resented for it. Its true weakness is how you can't really extend that range that far, but if you stick to close quarters and weave in and out of cover if you need to, you can do some awesome work. I can definitely say this is probably the best shotgun in Warzone overall, because that fire rate is such a blessing, and having 25 rounds to use is perfect. It may be overkill to some to have 25 rounds, but I suggest at least trying it, and you may find yourself surprised at just how fun it is to run. And there we have it. The Origin 12 is great, and you guys really need to try it if you haven't, and I hope that my video was able to help in some way, and even if it was just entertaining, that's okay too. I'll be sure to continue these guides with the other shotguns as well, so let me know in the comments what guide you want to see next. For my next video, it's probably going to be a little bit of a different one yet again. It's probably going to be something more along the lines of a tier ranking with all the shotguns and all their ammo types, all that good stuff, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And with all of that being said and out of the way, I want to wish you all a happy day/night, and I will see you in the next video.